The brazen bull, the fire that spoke. Ancient Greece, around 560 BC. In the city of Acragas, a craftsman named Perillos presented his king, Phalaris, with a gift, a new way to execute criminals. It wasn't a sword or an axe, it was art. A life-sized bronze bull, hollow on the inside, polished to perfection. The idea was simple, yet horrifying. The condemned would be placed inside and a fire lit beneath the bull. As the metal heated, flesh would roast, and the screams of the victim would echo through hidden tubes, reshaped into the sound of a bull's roar. Phalaris loved it, until Perillos made one fatal mistake. He bragged too much. The king ordered him to demonstrate the invention, by stepping inside. Moments later, the first screams that echoed from the bull were the inventor's own. It said that when the bull was opened, his bones were shining like jewels. Death by fire. Death by sound. Death by invention. A masterpiece of cruelty, born from human genius. Sawing in half. The price of defiance. There's no sound quite like a saw biting into wood, except when that wood is a human body. The method appeared in several civilizations, ancient Persia, Rome, even medieval Europe. Victims were hung upside down, tied by their ankles, with the saw starting between the legs. Gravity kept blood in the brain, keeping them alive, conscious, and screaming longer. The saw moved slowly, deliberately, inch by inch. Some were punished for treason, others for faith, and some simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The goal wasn't just to kill, it was to humiliate, to make the act of dying itself a lesson for the living. And by the time the saw reached the heart, there was no lesson left to learn. Crucifixion, the longest death. The Roman Empire. The masters of order, law, and unimaginable cruelty. Crucifixion wasn't designed to kill quickly. It was engineered to keep you alive, just enough to feel every second of your suffering. The victim was nailed or tied to a wooden cross. Their arms stretched, legs bent, every breath a struggle. Death came not from the nails but from exhaustion, a slow collapse where each inhale became harder than the last. Could take hours, sometimes days. The Romans placed crosses beside busy roads, turning suffering into a warning. You didn't just die by crucifixion. You were displayed. A living billboard that said, "Defy the empire and this will be you." The breaking wheel, bones of the condemned. In medieval Europe, justice was public and personal. The breaking wheel, known later as the Catherine wheel, was one of the slowest, most agonizing deaths imaginable. The victim was laid flat. The executioner, armed with an iron hammer or wheel, shattered the limbs one by one. Sometimes 8 blows, sometimes 20. Then the broken body was woven through the spokes of a giant wheel and left to die, bones piercing flesh, birds circling above. If the executioner liked you, he struck your chest first, mercy through a broken heart. If not, you stayed alive until the sun set. The crowd cheered. Justice, they called it. But when the wind blew across the field that night, all anyone could hear were the groans that refused to die. Scaphism, the death that crawled. Ancient Persia, a land of beauty, empire, and innovation, in everything including torture. Scaphism was a death sentence reserved for traitors. A punishment that didn't just kill the body but made the body rot while alive. The condemned was trapped between 2 hollowed-out boats or wooden shells, leaving only the head, hands, and feet exposed. They were force-fed milk and honey until they vomited. Then more honey was poured over their skin. The insects came. Flies, worms, beetles, feeding, burrowing, nesting. The victim lay floating on a swamp or lake, under the scorching sun. Days passed. Infection spread. Skin peeled. Consciousness flickered. Could take over a week to die. The Persians called it justice. History remembers it as one of humanity's darkest inventions. Scaphism, the death that crawled inside you. Flaying alive, the art of pain. To be flayed alive, to have your skin peeled away piece by piece, was a punishment known to ancient Assyrians, Aztecs, and even medieval kings. It wasn't random, it was ritual. The skin was seen as the clothing of the soul. Removing it was stripping away identity itself. Executioners used sharpened bronze knives, cutting slowly, carefully, keeping the victim conscious for as long as possible. In Assyria, they nailed the skins to city walls, a warning to rebels. In the Aztec temples, it became part of religious sacrifice, priests wearing the skin of their victims to symbolize rebirth. Every civilization that used it claimed it was for justice or faith. But really, it was power, the kind that only a god, or a monster, would understand. Ling Chi, death by 1,000 cuts. China 900 years ago. The punishment known as lingqi, the slow slicing, was reserved for traitors and murderers. The condemned was tied to a post, and the executioner would begin to cut small pieces, one after another. A finger, a strip of flesh, a limb. The goal wasn't just death, it was endurance. Some victims were given opium to stay awake longer, forced to feel each slice. Witnesses wrote that the condemned would sometimes smile near the end, not from peace but madness. It was said that true lingqi masters could make a man live through over 3,000 cuts. The last one, always the throat. When China finally outlawed lingqi in 1905, they didn't call it progress. They called it mercy. When pain becomes memory. Every empire thought it was civilized. Every ruler thought they were right. But when you look back, when you listen to the echoes of these deaths, you realize something terrifying. The most painful part of history isn't what they did, it's that we're capable of it. For every execution method that disappeared, new ways of cruelty took its place. Psychological, modern, invisible. Humanity learned to hide its brutality behind laws, borders, and technology, but it's still there, waiting. Maybe that's the real lesson of these ancient executions. That pain evolves, and history never forgets the sound of a scream. You've been watching, where we uncover the truths most people can't face. Subscribe for more stories the world tried to bury, and remember, sometimes the past hurts because it's still alive.